When I saw Adam Grant's post on Instagram, I immediately thought, oh good, another white person giving us permission to stay comfy in our privilege. I didn't even know I was following Adam, but needless to say, I unfollowed him immediately. And he's not even going to notice that I no longer followed him because he's in the stratosphere when it comes to the size of his social media platforms. And I also think he knows that. I think part of the reason he wrote this post is to separate himself from those he feels like he's above. After all, he's now collaborating with Brene Brown and he's interviewing some of Hollywood's A-stars. And I really don't care about any of that other than he seemed to have felt emboldened in the size of that platform to try to create some kind of boundaries about his lack of advocacy. Now, if you don't know who Adam Grant is, he is an organizational psychologist. He's a Wharton College professor, a best-selling author, and one of the most followed voices in the professional development space. I think I followed him because I had seen his work on Pinterest and thought some of his quotes were inspirational. But earlier this week, Adam posted this, a cheeky poem about the pressure many people feel to post about every problem affecting humanity. It's not that they don't care, it's that social media may not be where they go to show care. And on the surface, that sounds commendable. But the title of what he calls a poem is I Didn't Post About Your Cause. And I don't think his description of his intent that he wrote about the poem matches the words of the poem, at least not to me, and that's why I want to explain why. Here is what Adam wrote. I didn't post about your cause because I'm not an expert on the issue and I didn't have something novel or useful to say. I didn't post about your cause because the world is already too divided and I want to be a force for unity. I didn't post about your cause because I decided that today we could all use a break from depressing news. I didn't post about your cause because it would quickly turn my feed into an endless strip of outrage. I didn't post about your cause because I'm not an activist and empty words are usually just slacktivism. Fair point. I didn't post about your cause because I don't want to be a victim of audience capture where my content is dictated by a loud minority. I didn't post about your cause because your cause is not my cause. I didn't post about your cause because I don't take requests. I'm not a DJ. It's my platform, and I'll post if I want to. I didn't post about your cause because, and there you have it. So after I read those words, I commented, in a world of Adam Grants, be Miss Rachel. And I hit post, I unfollowed Adam, and I quickly forgot about the entire experience. Because who needs to give any more time to another white man convincing us that he has the privilege and entitlement to not care? And that's the way I took the post. But what I didn't expect was that the comment would receive the attention it did. And as of a couple hours ago, it was around 900 likes, and it's not going viral, but it's enough to show support with a couple of supportive replies and a handful of nasty ones because, of course, it's social media. But I revisited the comments from other people, and I saw that there were many people who agreed with me that Adam's, quote, cheeky poem missed the mark at an inflection point in our country and around the world when tensions are high and people are suffering. My point for this video isn't to convince you that Adam is entirely wrong, because he isn't. I'm one person doing hours of research each day to stay on top of the topics that I care about and advocate for so that I can write knowledgeably and hopefully in a way that inspires you to reconsider what you believe about a subject or try to move you into some level of activism. Yet it isn't uncommon for me to get a comment where somebody will say, why aren't you speaking on this topic or that topic? And the answer is simple. There aren't enough hours in the day for me to do so. It would take the equivalent of a news agency to stay that informed. And so I must choose my wheelhouse and stay as close to that as possible. But just in case there is any confusion, what I believe, let's do this. Science is real. Black lives matter. No human is illegal. Love is love. Women's rights are human rights. Factory farming is inhumane. Climate change is real. Stop data centers. Spay, neuter your damn pets. Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid should be fully funded and available to all citizens needing care. Universal health care should be available to all, and especially this final one because it's especially poignant and important since I mentioned Miss Rachel in this video. Free Gaza. And I especially want to be clear about this, but I also know that every time I talk about something like this, my account goes under some kind of review. But I want to say caring about the Palestinian people in Gaza is not anti-Semitism. To be anti-Semitic is to hate a person for simply being Jewish. Caring about Gaza is a response to one of the most documented humanitarian catastrophes of our time. Entire neighborhoods have been leveled, hospitals destroyed, and generations of children have been unalived, maimed, or left to starve while the world watches. To look at that level of human suffering and feel compelled to speak is not being political. It is a moral obligation, and conflating basic compassion for a decimated population with hatred of a Jewish people is a manipulation that should not go unchallenged. And I say this as a precursor to who Miss Rachel was and what she is known for now, because her advocacy for children suffering in Gaza and around the world everyone knows about, and I celebrate it. So Rachel Griffin Accurso, known as Miss Rachel to millions of children, built one of the most trusted platforms in the world, one toddler at a time, teaching babies to talk through songs, sign language, and a warmth that parents describe as feeling genuinely real through a screen. She has millions of YouTube subscribers, a Netflix deal, and a toy line at Target. She has every financial and professional reason to stay in her lane. But when images of children in Gaza began circulating, children the same age as the ones she sings to every day, she could not reconcile her platform's entire premise that every child deserves care and language and love. And she could not meet this moment with silence. She started posting. She raised money. And she said plainly that she would do everything in her power to help children whose human rights are being violated. And in doing so, she became something the internet rarely sees. And that is a person with an enormous amount to lose who decided that some things matter more than protecting what you've built. So contrast the work of Miss Rachel with what Adam Grant felt compelled to write. No matter how Adam chose to spin it, cheeky or not, there is a striking difference between a woman using her platform for good and a man who sits so high and comfy in his privilege that he can look down and decide this is a good day to tell people that they don't have to care. Now, I want to pause here and also recognize that there are many ways to be involved besides posting on social media. And that goes for me as well, ways that I do not share because I will be seen as boasting. Adam and his followers may do so as well. There are millions of charities in need of volunteers and resources. There are community programs that need funds. There are people who are desperate for help. None of that requires a presence on the internet. Whatever Adam's intent was, his 9-slide post gave his followers permission to conflate what it really means to take a stand for something that you believe in. Why? Because Adam doesn't care about or believe in the causes himself. I'm not going to dissect each line of that poem. I'm reading between the lines. And dear Adam, white people don't need anyone else reminding us that we can sit out while other people suffer. We've become really good at it. I can already sense some of you being uncomfortable with my words or even angry. But I want you to understand this. None of what I say is intended to detract from the work that you have done or are currently doing. Adam's words will feel like a warm blanket to those who do not want to disclose what they truly believe and or what they support. In other words, there are many closet Trump supporters who are rejoicing at the annihilation of human rights and believe that this country would be best served as a theocracy. That is who I am referencing. But it's important for you to understand that if you see yourself in what I'm saying, then maybe there is a level of discomfort for how you could use your voice, or that you really believe or support what Trump and Project 2025 are doing to us here in America. I know this experience way too well. Just one example. A time well before Trump was president, but also a foreshadowing of the bigotry still lying beneath the culture of our nation prior to Trump. I was a member of the Presbyterian Church USA, and it's known for its progressive views and its advocacy for and involvement in local coalitions. But the outrage boiled to the surface over whether the General Assembly would vote in favor of ordaining openly gay or lesbian clergy. I was honestly shocked to learn how many homophobic church members were sitting beside me in the pews and cooking with me in the kitchen. And that is only one example of a time when I learned that, quote, being nice does not equate to being compassionate. And being compassionate should lead us into some form of action. That is why I say that the words from another white man giving us permission to sit down and stay silent aren't necessary. Patriarchy not only taught us to perfect it, but to escalate to vitriol when the expansion of rights for others is offensive to us. We need to be honest about what Adam Grant's post was. Now, on the surface, it sounds intellectual and honest and genuine. He said, here are my reasons, here is my thinking, and here's my self-awareness. And Adam Grant has built an entire brand of rethinking assumptions, on challenging conventional wisdom, on the kind of rigorous intellectual humility that makes people feel smarter for following him. But when he packages something like "I don't want to" into his brand of platform ethics, it would be easy for that cheeky poem to sound like wisdom. And to me, that's the problem. Because what that post actually did, what it functionally did in this world, was give us, the most privileged, the most comfortable, the most insulated people on the internet, a framework to justify their silence. Read those 9 reasons again, but this time listen to them through a different filter. I didn't post because I'm not an expert. I didn't post because I want to be a force for unity. I didn't post because it's not my cause. I didn't post because I don't take requests. If you have spent any time in spaces where people with platforms and power have been asked to speak up, whether that's in a boardroom, a newsroom, or even a church, these sentences are going to sound very, very familiar. And especially for those of us who are deconstructing, we often heard a version of every single one of these from a pulpit. We've watched as pastors explain why Sunday morning is not the place for politics. We've heard a church leader say that speaking to one issue would divide the congregation. We've been told the church's calling is unity, not activism. We've sat in rooms where people said, I want to be a force for unity, and that was used as a sophisticated excuse for never naming anything that might make powerful people uncomfortable. And we were told that our church loved and welcomed everyone while we actively and gleefully voted for people who would annihilate their human rights. Now, Adam Grant's post can be secular and professional and seemingly innocuous, but the logic is the script that white people use when white people don't want to feel pressure to reveal who they truly are and what they truly believe. So here's what I think Adam's post reveals. When suffering is not your reality, silence is a privilege that protects those far from that suffering. So much so that you have to construct a narrative, then write 9 slides about it. But when suffering is your daily existence, when it belongs to your community, your family, your body, you don't need a framework for why you might speak or stay silent. It's that gap between people who need a well-reasoned argument to justify staying quiet and people who have to carefully calculate the cost of speaking at all. This is exactly what privilege looks like from the inside. It's a particular ease of someone who has never had to feel the urgency of a thing they didn't choose. Now, Adam Grant is not a villain in this story, but he is not the victim either. He is an example. And the fact that his post resonated with so many people, that so many accounts hit share and said, yes, exactly, same, that confirms why we must continue to educate people on why staying silent is complicit. Conversely, Miss Rachel built her platform teaching toddlers to talk. Her entire business is built on being safe. Safe for babies, safe for tired parents at 6 a.m. who need 20 minutes of peace, safe for pediatricians to recommend, safe for daycare centers to put on. The word that runs through every corner of Miss Rachel's brand is safe, and yet she is the one who has been posting videos of herself singing with a 3-year-old double amputee in Gaza. She is the one who raised the thousands of dollars for children in war zones. She is the one who has faced organized harassment campaigns, calls for boycotts, accusations of anti-Semitism, and a demand for a Department of Justice investigation. And she kept going anyway. Miss Rachel did not start her show to become an activist. She has never claimed to be a political commentator. She does not have a background in foreign policy or international law. So by Adam Grant's logic, she has no business posting about any of this. She is not an expert. She has every financial incentive to stay in her lane and to protect her business collaborations. She knows she has millions of subscribers who may walk away, and yet she posted anyway. But the reason Miss Rachel's advocacy is far removed from someone like Adam Grant is this. It isn't a departure from her platform. It's a direct expression of it. Her whole identity is built around the radical simplicity of caring for children, all children. When children are suffering, her platform doesn't give her an exemption from that reality. It gives her a responsibility to it. She didn't become an activist, she just refused to draw a circle around which children counted. That's the distinction that Adam Grant's carousel completely misses. Nobody is asking influencers to become experts in geopolitics. Nobody is asking them to write dissertations or become full-time advocates. What people are asking and what they notice when it doesn't happen is whether someone with a massive platform can look at suffering and respond with basic human recognition. Friends, you don't need credentials for that. You just need a conscience and a moral compass. When I typed in a world of Adam Grant's "Be a Miss Rachel" on Adam's post, I wasn't calling for everyone to post about every cause. I wasn't saying that silence is always cowardice or that every platform owes the internet their take on every crisis. What I was saying, and what thousands of other people apparently recognized, is that there is a difference between thoughtful restraint and insulated comfort. There is a difference between, I've considered this, and here is why I'm choosing quiet right now. And here are my 9 reasons that I've prepared in advance for why I will never have to feel the pressure of this. Miss Rachel didn't post because someone told her to. She didn't post because she was trying to build a new audience or signal her politics. She posted because she watched children suffer and could not make her platform an exception to her own values and beliefs. Some may call that activism, but it is simply Miss Rachel's integrity and compassion revealed in her actions. And for people who have spent years watching leaders with large platforms in churches, in institutions, in media, in the self-help industrial complex, they've all used sophisticated language to stay comfortable while the most vulnerable people in their orbit carry the weight. So yes, my comment resonated deeply with them because you know the difference between someone working something out in public and someone performing privilege and wielding it as a shield. You don't have to be an activist to show compassion. You don't have to be an expert to be human. And you don't need a platform to recognize that the people who most need someone to say something are rarely the ones who get to decide whether or not it gets said. And so, I'll repeat it. In a world of Adam Grants, be a Miss Rachel. Not because you have to be, but because you've decided that care, real care, inconvenient care, care that costs you something, is not a lane. It's a reflection of who you truly are. And I'm always going to do my best to be known for what I spoke up for, rather than being silent in my privilege. And I am not always going to get it right, but I'm going to keep trying. And because I believe that your empathy, your activism, and your compassion are a reflection of your spirituality, to that end, I'm going to end this by saying, free Gaza. Now, this video is based on a writing that you can find on Substack, so please join me there and follow me on all my platforms so we can stay connected.